Okay, welcome everybody. Tonight is Monday, January 12th, 2009. This is a public hearing for the City of Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals. We have one petition on tonight, and the applicant is Carol Foley, trustee, and the address is care of Attorney George Elitis, 133 Market Street. The property address is 106 Acton Street. Mr. Elitis.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. First of all, Happy New Year. It's the first time I've seen you all since the new year, and it's such a pleasure to be back before you again. Secondly, two apologies. Number one, that I had to drag you all down here tonight as the only person before the board. I know that's a rarity. In fact, I think in all of my career before the board, I think I've never been here where it was the only matter on, but maybe it's a sign of the times. Thirdly, hopefully you all got the little white book, and I apologize for not getting it to you sooner, but I just didn't get it all done and over to Kim in time, so I brought it here tonight. What I'd like to do, also with me is Carol Foley, the trustee, her daughter, Erin, and her husband, Erin's husband, whose name I've already forgotten. Okay. Daughter, that's right, niece, not daughter, I'm sorry. Anyway, this property has been owned in the McGrath family since 1940. And during that period of time, how many siblings, Carol? I keep forgetting. There were 14 McGraths. After Mr. McGrath died, Mrs. McGrath, Marie, also known as Antoinette, lived in the house, and she had two daughters in particular that were at home with her, one of whom has been disabled for life, has never been able to live on her own or care for herself. Marie, the mother, was very, very concerned about this daughter, and in order to protect her, she declared in her will, a copy of which is in your package. I hope it is anyway. She set up a trust whereby, I'm looking at this now and I don't know that I see it in there. Is there a copy of the will in there? Yeah. She set up a trust whereby she designated that Carol and one of her brothers should be the trustee for her two daughters, Nancy and Shirley. Shirley is the disabled daughter. And so that Shirley would have a place to live the rest of her life. Unfortunately, Carol lost a brother who's a co-trustee and lost a sister who was living with Shirley. And for that time, different members of the family were helping out with Shirley. But Erin rose to the occasion after her mother died, I believe. Nancy was your mother, right? After her mother died, and Erin and her husband have been caring for her Aunt Shirley in the house all this period of time. In the meantime, they've also had a child. So as you might imagine, the job of being a mother and a father and breadwinners, but also caring for a 3-year-old child and also caring for a disabled aunt has made it very difficult for them. So one of the things, and there's also some financial considerations in here. When Carol and I talked about the situation here, what she said to me was, I want to be able to get a little more money so that my sister doesn't have to go into a nursing home and have that go and then become a ward of the state if we run out on Medicaid and paid for through the government. In order to avoid doing that, we can continue to keep her, but it's getting very difficult for Erin, her husband, and the child. And she said, what we'd like to do is build a house immediately next door, and that way Erin and her husband can still have a house of their own. They'll pay for it, and that's where some of the money, they'll pay for the land, and that's where some of the money will go. Carol's responsibility as a trustee is to hold all of the benefits from that property for her sister Shirley. So that would help to throw a little more money into the kitty, and it would also give Erin, her husband, a little bit of a break so they can raise their daughter, but they would be immediately right next door, so she would still be able to take care of her aunt along the way. If you look at the parcel in question, it contains 12,500 square feet, and I have taken and I have in front of me here on your right, straight ahead, but my left, an aerial view from the assessor's office on the GS system, I think, GIS system. I also, I think, put one of them, a smaller version, which might be a little bit more difficult for you to read in your packets. I think the board should, what I wanted to particularly note was that this is an area where most of the lots are very small, and most of the houses, as you can see in the layout, are laid out on lots that would be essentially the same size as the two houses lots that we hope to make out of the lot here in question. I also wanted to point out, so that no one would say that in any way we're changing the character of the neighborhood, that right immediately next door to them, on the same size lot, a 12,500 square foot lot, back in 2005, two large structures, and I have from the assessor's office a picture of one of those structures in the back of your booklet. Two large structures were built on the one parcel beside them. What we're proposing to do wouldn't be anywhere near as large as this. They're each two condominiums, so there are four families living in this same amount of land. And it just seems to me, unfortunately, what happened here, I guess I left out an important fact. When the zoning got changed, instead of being able to build on a 6,000 square foot piece of land, they now required to have 7,000. So we are, by dividing it in half and getting 6,250 square feet, only 750 square feet short. On the new house, we may have some dimensional things. Mr. Member Bienvenu was nice enough to mention to me that I was wrong about the front yard, because I think I can do an average and make it work. But essentially, we can build a house there without any problems. What happens, unfortunately, when we cut it in half, the old house, which is a legal house, because it only sits on 6,250 square feet, becomes a non-conforming house, according to the zoning. So with the assistance of the building commissioner's office, we decided to make this into two applications instead of one. Quite honestly, in the past, I thought one application would suffice to cover one piece of land, but since we're going to have, if it's approved, since we're going to have two different houses with two different dimensional situations, we did it that way. So I also highlighted a few other things about the neighborhood, but I think I've touched on most of them. The bottom line is that we don't feel that we're going to in any way derogate from the intent of the zoning statute, the zoning ordinance here, by doing what we've proposed here. We don't believe we're going to in any way change the character of the neighborhood or in any way interfere with any of the people. As you can notice from looking around here, there isn't another soul here, so I can only assume that nobody in the neighborhood has any objections. Certainly no one has come to Erin or Carol to voice any objections. And so I would ask the board to look this over and consider it, and I would appreciate it if you would grant the variances that were requested. So I'm here and my clients to answer any questions you might have, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ladies. George, were you able to take a look at the comments from the city engineer?
I did see them, yes.
I think one of the issues, each lot has to have its own sewer connection. That's probably not a problem, right?
No.
And
And
obviously, each has its own driveway.
And a driveway, right.
Right,
Yeah.
and that was, I think from the plans I saw, that's that's accounted for in there.
Right. We didn't really get into drawing that per se, but obviously we understand that we have those requirements and we'll meet them.
Okay. Okay, does anybody on the board have any comments or questions for Mr. Leites?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Counsel, is there any plans to do any improvements on the existing home?
I don't know the answer to that, but I'll find out in a second.
Probably have to take the inside of it to keep it updated, but no additional.
Okay.
All right, I think Bill?
Yep. Through you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Leites, the comment about Acton Street having two different zones on it. Can you, either you or could the building commissioner, I'm trying to understand what we're talking about there.
If you look at it, it's kind of strange, but can I just try to point that out here? I have no idea when this was done, why it was done, but for some strange reason, as you go down, somebody tell me what street that is off the connector. Pardon me?
So
This
Woburn
is-
Street?
Yeah, Woburn, thanks. As you get down there, all of a sudden, when they did the zoning piece, instead of having the street, and actually the same way this way, instead of having it go only one lot back from the main street as all the others did, for some reason, it went two back. And it's the only one that, that's encompassed by that particular situation. And I have no idea why. It just seems strange to me that happened, and then on top of it all, and that's why I say, if you look at that, I gave you a picture of one house. There were actually two houses that size right adjacent to this property. I don't know if that answers your question, Mr. Bailey.
Are all the houses on Acton Street in the same zone except this piece of property? I guess,
I think the answer is yes, except I don't know if the house on the corner is Acton or... It's Acton. So there were probably two houses that are in the TSF, this traditional single-family zone. But the rest of them are in the TTF, and those only require 6,000 square feet now.
Mr. Commissioner, do you have any insight to that? I'm just trying to understand here. Are we talking about one piece of property is the only property on that street that's in the TSF?
Yeah, basically. I say basically because the other one on the corner, but that's it. So somehow, when they drew that line, these people were disadvantaged, is basically.
And the
what
other
happened.
zone requires 6,000.
Right next door, and every other one on the street.
Go ahead, Jeff.
So if I understand the point that Mr. Bailey has been trying to make, and what you stated, Counselor, was had they been consistent and not gone two back, this wall would have been a moot point. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
George, why are there, I think I saw apartment houses on the street, or an apartment building with multiple units, and then duplexes. So the duplexes are allowed, but what about the apartment house? I'm just curious, why was...
I don't know. No one knows how that got there.
It's sort of a mix of everything except single-family, it seems
It
like.
is. It is. It's very bizarre.
Okay. I don't have any questions. Other questions? Anybody else? Go ahead, Vezin.
Just a quick question, George. The current house, the owners or the young other lady that was there, Carol's sister, is going to stay there, but the new one that they proposed to build next door, that's going to be Carol's
Erin
niece.
and her husband and their baby,
So
yes.
it's not going to be anyone else except they themselves. Is that they want their own independent.
Right. They want their own
place.
home to raise their child.
Right. And I went out there and take a look, and most of the house around that area, just the same size anyway, in terms of...
She'll be right next door, and she's, though disabled, is not in a situation where she couldn't technically be alone, but they also have help with her as much as they can. People, a caregiver who would come in at certain times too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else, Rick? Chloe? Okay, anybody here wishing to speak in favor of either petition, the petition to subdivide the lot and construct a new single-family home, and the second petition to subdivide and maintain the existing single-family home? Anybody here wishing to speak in opposition of this petition? In opposition, and hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Is anybody here wishing to speak in favor of either petition? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed, and that closes the public hearing. We'll open up to the board for deliberation. Anybody have any comments other than the questions you just asked?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I did take a ride down that street today, and although today's zoning code, it does not conform, obviously, but it's very, very close. You're basically at the boundary of conforming and non-conforming, which is, you're basically just a couple feet away. And what, as the chairman stated earlier, the neighborhood apartment houses, there's townhouses there. So there's a lot of congestion in that neighborhood, and this, I don't think this property being built would take from the neighborhood whatsoever. And I think the family is trying to stay together, and I think it's a good story and a good petition, and I support it. Thank you very much.
Beza?
I concur with my fellow board member that I don't see allow these petitions to go forward and to have it subdivide into the lot that they propose is going to harm the neighboring home. I don't see that at all. So I too in support of this, just as long as part of conditions that that the petitioner comply with the engineering concern of the sewage or the driveway being two separate and stuff. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No, Bob, do we have to make that a condition of that? That's part of the building permit, right? He would have to put the driveway in. There's no need to make that part of a...
That's correct.
Yeah, okay, so and you understand that anyway, Attorney Lightis, right? You understand that?
Yes.
Anybody else? Bill or Jeff?
Mr. Lighties, what's the size of the home going to be? The new home?
I think that's it, 37 by 40, she said.
And you also provided us with, I believe, a kind of a sketch of what it...
I did, both sort of a picture as well as a floor plan, Mr. Bailey, so you can get an idea. It's a very modest, small house, especially,
Yep.
That's why I put the picture of what's next door. When you compare what
Yep.
we're proposing, this modest little small house for this couple, I certainly don't think it derogates from or does anything detrimental to that neighborhood.
So it'll be a two-stall garage in front? In other
Correct.
words, the rendering that's in here, it's going to be similar to that?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I'm all set, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Jack, anything?
One point I would like to make, I'm hoping at some point, and I would address this to the commission, and perhaps he can find out for us if we can get some clarity on a couple of these points, only in lieu of potentially any other petitioners in the neighborhood coming forth. I just would like to get some definition on perhaps why it was done, why it only goes back 2 spaces there, and some clarity on the zoning. It does seem to be rather convoluted in comparison to other areas with the multifamilies and the duplexes. That being said, certainly with the circumstances that Councilor Eliades brought forth, and with the willingness of the petitioner to address the engineer's concerns and making sure driveway and all of those concerns are addressed, I would then gladly support the petition. Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck. Anybody else? Rick? Anything? Okay, so we need 2 votes tonight. The first vote has to be on the petition to allow the variance to build on an undersized lot. So we'll take that one first, and then the second vote we'll take is the vote to maintain the pre-existing lot with reduced dimensions. So, we need a motion.
Yep. With that being said, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve 106 Acton Street, Lot A, which would allow the petitioner to subdivide the land and construct a new single-family residence.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, Stephanie, roll call, please.
Approve.
Approve?
Approve?
Approve.
Okay, you've been approved unanimously to subdivide the lot. Now we're going to take the second vote, which is to maintain the existing single-family at a reduced dimension. So,
Yes. Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve 106 Acton Street, Lot B, which allows the petitioner to maintain existing single-family residence on an undersized lot after subdividing lot to provide additional housing lot.
Second the motion.
okay, and roll call, please, Stephanie?
Approve.
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 Okay, you've been approved with 5 votes unanimously on both petitions. Mr. Lightis, if you could come up and sign the sketch, we'll basically hold you to generally that sketch and the floor plan here, if you sign it, and also the engineering plan you have.
Gladly.
Okay, thank you very much.
We all thank you. You've made the family quite happy, needless to say.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, I don't believe there's any other business on for tonight. Very welcome. Good luck. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, sir.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, sir.